I'm Maria, standing in the chaos of my parents' house, watching as my sister Destiny screams and my parents' faces turn ashen. I can't help but feel a strange sense of calm. The room is filled with the sound of their panic, but all I can think about is how long it took me to get here. Just moments ago, I transferred $450,000 into my parents' account, watching as they toasted to their newfound fortune. But then, Andrew's phone rang, and the color drained from his face. "All our accounts are frozen," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Federal hold." I straightened my back and looked him in the eye. "Yesterday, I filed an IRS whistleblower report. The ledger flagged your accounts, and that transfer triggered an automatic freeze." Destiny let out a shriek, and I knew she had finally realized the gravity of the situation. "The loan shark saw the money," I said calmly. "You're trapped between the IRS and the mob." As I walked out of the house, the screams of my family echoed behind me. It was a moment of sweet revenge, but it also marked the end of a long and painful journey. It all started when I buried my 6-year-old son, Ethan, alone under the scorching Miami sun. The humidity was suffocating, and I kept looking towards the cemetery gates, hoping to see my family. But they never came. Instead, when the first shovelful of dirt hit the coffin, my phone buzzed. It was a link from my mother, Clara, to a luxurious beachfront villa worth $1. $2 million, exactly the amount of Ethan's life insurance and trust fund. Driving home in silence, the smell of the white lilies in the back seat made me sick. When I got to my apartment, instead of the expected breakdown, a cold clarity washed over me. I sat down at my laptop and started digging. I logged into the online store where my mother usually ordered gifts. There, I found the order for the funeral spray, placed 2 weeks ago. They had known they wouldn't be at the funeral long before it happened. I also checked the joint credit card I shared with my sister, Lily. While I was at the funeral home, she had spent a fortune on designer clothes and fancy dinners. I immediately removed her as an authorized user. Then I turned to the smart home app for the family cabin in the Smoky Mountains. I bought it with my divorce settlement, a place for Ethan to experience snow. But my parents used it all the time while I paid the bills. I changed the access codes, cutting them off from the cabin. I also severed all our shared digital accounts, like streaming services and cloud storage. They thought I was weak, broken by grief, but they were wrong. Looking back, I realized how long I had been their doormat. For years ago, my father, Robert, retired early, claiming he deserved a break. My mother called me in tears, saying they were about to lose their house. I had just landed a big contract as a graphic designer, so I started paying their second mortgage, $2,000 a month. My father never even said thank you. Lily always asked for money, too. She wanted to go on an influencer trip to Bali for her birthday. My mother pressured me into paying for her flight, saying I was selfish if I didn't. And after the trip, she didn't even tag me in any of the photos. When Lily totaled her car while texting, my father signed the loan. He panicked about his credit score, so I paid the deductible. They always starved me of affection, but then out of the blue, they'd give me a little bit of love, like a compliment or a hug. It was like they were training me, using intermittent reinforcement to keep me coming back for more. But after Ethan's death, they sent me a box full of their overdue bills, with a note saying, "Family helps family." That was the last straw. A few days later, there was a pounding on my door. It was Robert and Clara. Robert walked straight into my kitchen and started throwing out expired food, trying to prove I was incompetent. Clara stood in the hallway, criticizing my art on the walls and saying I was having a psychotic break. They presented me with a voluntary conservatorship document, saying they wanted to manage Ethan's trust fund until I was stable. If I didn't sign, they threatened to call the authorities and have me involuntarily committed. They even forged evidence like fake emails. I knew I had to act fast. I hired Eric, a lawyer, and his office was like a bunker. His team, including my late husband's aunt, a retired judge named Helen, found out that Lily had a huge debt of $350,000 to an illegal gambling ring in Miami, and my parents had signed. They had 48 hours to pay or face violence. I decided to play along. I went to my parents' house and transferred the money. but I had already filed the whistleblower report. The transfer triggered the freeze, and now they were in a bind. The fallout was quick. My parents lost their house, and Lily fled the state. I received a whistleblower reward, which was enough for me to start over. I used the rest of Ethan's trust to create the Ethan Miller Space Exploration Scholarship. I didn't lose my family. I finally freed myself from their grasp. And that's how I learned to stand up for myself and let go of the toxic relationships that had held me back for so long.